Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, returning subscribers, and people wondering why I took so long to do something with my channel. And welcome to... I don't actually know what I'm going to call it, but I know that it's probably going to be something stupid, and I plan on changing it later. So basically, the new Luigi's Mansion 2 came out, and that's pretty exciting. I've been a fan of the series for a while, and I basically managed to beat the game in one day. Yeah, so I basically just decided that I would, do a review on it of it, and also because I didn't want this to take up too much time, I'm going to not. This is all completely off scripted. I apologize if I say too much because again, I didn't want to have to waste any time. I have like a lot of videos in my backlog, and then also school sucks more or less. So yeah, I have a bunch of notes about my playthrough of Luigi's Mansion, Luigi's Mansion 3. Overall, I have to say that it was like an okay game. I would definitely say that if you enjoy the Luigi's Mansion series, that I definitely think that you should pick it up. I like this game, and I have to say that a majority of my time I spent, I had fun with it. I did have some minor problems with this, but we can get into that in a second. So let's just go ahead and go over everything that I have to say. First of all, the graphics. Can I just take a moment to appreciate how insane the graphics of this game are? I mean, I don't know if you've been keeping track of the trailers, but the game literally went from the equivalent of a 3DS port to the best looking game on the Switch. Seriously, even though you spend a lot of your time inside of the mansion, every time I would see, like, these beautiful shots, and these cutscenes were amazing. Another thing that they also tried to go for with the cutscenes was that there was very little dialogue. Like, I noticed that that was one of the main points of the game, is that there was little to no dialogue. And that could just be because I turned off the hint system for EGAD, so there's probably a lot less dialogue there. But I noticed that there was just, like, no pop-up text. In fact, oh jeez, I might even go so far as to say that this game had the least dialogue of any Luigi's Mansion game. Probably. Because I don't remember there being, like, too much dialogue. Except for EGAD. I'm pretty sure EGAD has the most lines of dialogue of any character in the game. I mean, that's kind of a given, but still. So yeah, visually the game looks amazing. There's always... If I do have one complaint, though, when it comes to the graphics, is that, like... how should I put this? This mostly comes in the form of, like, the puddles on the water, and... Because sometimes it's hard to see the puddles, and, like, it's not that big of a deal, but when you consider the fact that Luigi, the main selling point of the game, dies instantly if he touches water, sometimes it can get very annoying trying to use Luigi when he keeps constantly dying because of a puddle of water that you couldn't see. Geez, I remember I was trying to collect all the gems in the basement sub-level 2, and I kept stepping in puddles of water that I couldn't see. That's just a small nitpick. And then I guess going to the overall story, Mario games aren't really known for stories, but I have to say that this is probably one that I just love the way that it starts out. The intro is perfect. So you basically have Luigi falling for the exact same trick that he fell for in the first game, which is... I can't believe that he actually fell for it twice, and even worse, he brought everyone and his dog. I just love the fact that when Luigi... Believe it or not, there's actually a way to read the note that was sent, like, in-game, because they have, like, this little thing in the prologue if you hit the pause menu. I just love the fact that it literally told Luigi to bring all of his friends, and then none of them questioned it. But what's even better is that we learned that EGAD was also brought here because he was invited to study Ghost. So basically, the smartest character in the Mario universe fell for what Luigi fell for. And at this point, I'm starting to wonder if Nintendo was actually trying to make their characters dumber in order to get these storylines. I mean, I'm not mad, but come on, Luigi. Like, I'm pretty sure the dog is actually smarter than Luigi at this point. But that's enough about that. I guess if I do want to touch on one thing real quick, it's that this game feels a lot more like a sequel to Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon than a sequel to Luigi's Mansion. And what I mean by that is that it's a lot more structured in a way. Like, the levels are a lot less connected. It almost feels like every single level you're going through a mission from Luigi's Mansion, except the mission is way longer, and you have access to, like, the whole... to like the whole floor instead of just like one thing. But like I noticed that they took several aspects from the original Luigi's Mansion, and it honestly kind of feels like they sort of just left out anything from the original game. So like they brought back Polterpup, which I'm not mad about. I'm glad that they actually followed up on that. So now we can actually develop our relationship with Polterpup. And yes, Polterpup is a good boy, the best boy. They brought back the Darklight device, which I think is very cool, and they also expanded on the Spirit Ball lore. Spirit Ball. No, they added a new type of Spirit Ball that basically possesses objects, and you have to use the Darklight device to get rid of it. Of course, I almost died on my first one because I thought you were just supposed to destroy the thing rather than actually using the Spirit Ball. But yeah, sure. But I noticed that other things like they brought back the Strobe, which I'm not mad that they brought back the Strobe, but I always did like the idea that you could just sort of catch a ghost by surprise and then suck them up from there. But yeah, that like. And then there's like the ghosts themselves. I can touch a little bit more. I'm going to talk more about this later, but it feels a lot more like when it came to designing the boss ghosts, they were sort of just like meeting the fans halfway when it came to like bringing back the boss ghosts, cuz a lot of the boss ghosts are cool, but some of them feel like they could literally be replaced by generic enemies or enemies from the last game. And again, like this is all very interconnected, so we can touch on this later. Yeah, but going back to the main story, I love the intro and every second of it. You have this entire thing where it's so obvious that it's a scam, and yet you can't just help but admire the amount of effort they put into making this thing look real. And then you have that chase scene with King Boo at the beginning. It's literally 100% scripted, and I'm not even joking when I said that I couldn't figure out how to run. So it was really weird seeing King Boo trying to slowly approach Luigi. But man, so yeah, it was scripted, but you know what? It still looked awesome. And I even love the little detail of the spirit balls going into the door so that Luigi couldn't just try to run into another one of the rooms. If I do have one complaint about it though, is that it really sets up the wrong idea for the kind of role that King Boo is going to play. Because after this moment, King Boo doesn't show up until the final floor. King Boo is barely in the game, and that makes me sad, because like King Boo, like the king. This guy literally just starts the game by trying to kill Luigi. I thought he was gonna at least try harder or have like a bigger presence in the game. But no, instead, and I'm not joking when I say this, Helen Gravely, the manager of the hotel, yeah, her cat has a bigger presence in this game than King Boo. I wish I could say I was exaggerating, but no, I'm not. The cat has a bigger presence than King Boo. And that honestly kind of disappointed me. I don't know, I guess I just expected to see King Boo more since a lot of the times, a lot of the times King Boo is saved until the very end of the game. And he only like appears once, so I'd hope that King Boo would have like a larger role, but not really. I'm pretty sure at one I'm not even joking when I said that I probably would have forgotten that King Boo was even in the game if it wasn't for the fact that every time that like every certain floors you would get like a view of Helen Gravely's like office, and you would see like a King Boo figurine on her side, and I'm just like, oh yeah, he exists. Uh, but yeah, other than that, I have to say that the story did have like a lot of neat nods. Man, seeing Egad as like a painting, when I saw this guy who had generally played it safe was suddenly in the painting, I was like, well, we're screwed. But if I do have one complaint though, it's that the beginning is really heavy on tutorials. And when I say that it's heavy on tutorials, I mean that the Polterpup was constantly barking and pulling me places, and then if it wasn't the Polterpup, it was Egad telling me like, "Hey, I bet that mall cop went into that door that you obviously saw him go through because it was in the cutscene. Let's go follow the mall cop." And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to follow the mall cop. I'm going to explore at my own pace." "Oh, okay, let me call back in a minute and a half." I'm pretty sure that was like a required thing though, so but luckily there is an option to turn off hints, so I'm glad that they at least got rid of that. There was also a bit of a nod to the Virtual Boy. In this case it's the Virtual Boo. I mean, you've had the Game Boo Horror, you've had the Game Boo DS or whatever it was called. And then I like the fact that they keep making references to the fact that it's gonna fly off the store shelves. It only runs at 5 frames per second. And of course, he's just like, oh, it's gonna fly off the store shelves. Get it because the Wii U sold even worse than the Virtual Boy. I guess EGAD's, like, whole setup, because he sort of just, like, EGAD sort of just, like, sets up shop in the first basement. I guess this gives me a good place to touch on the fact that there's never really a good place to save. And when I say that there's no good place to, like, save, I mean there's no good place to take a break. I mean, the game runs on a permanent autosave system that you can't turn off, so you're basically just stuck waiting around a room for 10 seconds, which really stresses me out because I'm worried about losing progress. But that's like a small potato. But what really like got to me was the fact that there was never like a good place to save. Because what would happen is that you would clear a floor and then you would just move on to the next floor. And it would just happen like that. And I'm like, geez, is there ever gonna be like a good time to take a break or something? Because like these floors tended to alternate between taking about 10 minutes to clear and taking about 40 minutes to clear. I don't know, because I like to like explore and stuff. I want to see all the secrets, and there's like a lot of secrets. But that's one of the things that that's one of my beefs with it, is just that like I never found that there was a good place to save. And the reason for that is that there's never really a reason to go back to EGAD unless the story requires it. Because you are going to have to save the toads, obviously, but one of the things about saving the toads is that they sort of just find their own way. You only have to take them back to the elevator, and you're probably already going back to the elevator in order to install the button piece and stuff. So like I guess that's one of my griefs with it, is that there's never like, I don't know, just sort of like a good like stopping point. Although I guess everywhere is a stopping point, so that's probably just a me problem. And oh yeah, later in the game they added the ability to teleport to EGAD like instantly. But it was less like a teleportation system and more like a quick save option, where you could just like quickly save your location, teleport to EGAD, and then teleport right back in case you needed to like do anything like view the gallery or stuff. I honestly kind of wish they got rid of this and replace this with instant teleportation to the elevator. And it looks like he probably could have done instant teleportation to the elevator, considering the fact that we already know that he knows pixelation technology, and the fact that you later have to set up like a whole monitor in the elevator. So again, I feel like you could have easily put in like a teleportation system, and I would have preferred if we had a teleportation system to the elevator rather than teleportation to EGAD. Because honestly, the elevator is so close to EGAD that it doesn't even really matter, but again, that's mostly my problem. I guess I can also use this as a good opportunity to go over some of the more movement-based options, since EGAD gives you all of your, like your new tools and stuff. Man, you start off with so much in this game. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that I had already played the previous games and so I already knew what to expect, like, I would have been so lost. Like, you're already on, like, the third or fourth. You get to floor 5, which, by the way, is, like, the third or fourth floor you unlock. And you already have the suction shot, Luigi. Or, no, I think you unlock Luigi later. But, like, still, you have so much to use in this game. And then another pet peeve, like, if I can just talk about this real quick. Why did you put the dark light device on the X button? I'm sorry, but I'm so used to the dark light device being on the Y button, and now the Y button is the suction shot. Hell, I'm pretty sure, like, I spent most of the secrets that I had missed were because I forgot to use the dark light device, because there's never really, like, a lot of the time, the things with the dark light device are going to be incredibly hidden, that you would just have to shine your light everywhere, whereas in Dark Moon, there would be, like, a dark outline, like showing that something was missing so that it was like a little more obvious. But in this time they're really hidden. But other than that, suction shot can be a bit weird when you're trying to angle this up, especially when you're trying to like angle something up. It usually auto selects whenever you have something to hook onto, but other times the forced motion control can be a bit wonky. And then yeah, you can technically turn off the gyro controls and just use the stick, but honestly, I don't know. I just find it very hard to maneuver that because of the way that the Joy-Cons are positioned. What else? They added like a sort of jetpack jump. It's like good for getting ghosts away from you, but it's never really needed. I'm pretty sure this is actually what replaced the dodge button from Dark Moon, and which is a shame because I really like the dodge button. But Yeah, the jetpack's not really used for much. I sort of thought that it would be used for more, but honestly, getting ghosts away from you is only really useful for, like, disarming them. And then you'll have those particular ghosts where it doesn't even work on them, so yeah, whatever. Oh, what else? Oh yeah, and then we need to talk about, like, the main selling point of the game, Luigi. Man, I'll be honest, I really like the Luigi mechanic. It's fun. I like the idea that you get to switch between, like, this, like, Luigi, and then you get to play as Luigi, who has, like, who's basically Luigi, except he can go through stuff, but also, like, dies if he touches water. He's fine with every other element, though, for some reason. Like, I remember in, like, several trailers that, like, they kept saying that he was weak to the elements, and so that I'm like, oh, okay, so he can't be exposed to like too much stuff, like ice or something. No, it's just water. Yeah, that confused me a little. I like using Luigi though. I have to say that he's a really good main selling point. And speaking of Luigi, I played most of this game in two player because I do have a brother, and the graphics held up pretty well. Like even in two player mode, the graphics were still able to hold up relatively well. If I do have one complaint about Luigi though, it's that sometimes I end up in situations where I don't know if it would be better. Like it feels like I'm not playing in the right mode. Like sometimes it would make sense for there to only be one player, like you have Luigi and Luigi, because the camera is perma focused on Luigi, but it will sometimes like scroll down so that I can show Luigi's location. But like the problem is that if Luigi, this is a problem in two player mode because if Luigi tries moving around, then you can accidentally kill Luigi by going off screen. I don't know if this works in if you're doing like multiple switches because I was just using one screen. And then I would have other times where it feels like it would legitimately be better if it was in two player. Like the Helen Gravely boss fight. That boss fight was so fun to do in two player. I'm not even joking. That boss fight was legitimately the best. I guess it could have been a little bit more difficult because I guess two player sort of makes it way too easy. But no, seriously, like two player makes that fight really fun. And then I want to talk about one more movement option, I guess, and that would be the super section. The super section is unlocked like really late into the game and you only ever use it 3 times. I don't know if you've ever played Kirby Triple Deluxe, but it's basically the equivalent of a hypernova, but if the hypernova had to be plugged into an outlet. Cause like you don't do anything with this. Like you only use it 3 times in the game, and like 2 of the times that you use it is optional. So like that always it feels like it was incredibly underutilized, and I don't really think that it made sense. I honestly would have just left the super suction out of the game. If you were asking me, I don't think that it was necessary. Because, like, it just operates so. I don't know, it feels so much more different using the super suction when it should literally just be a more powerful version of the suction. And then like Luigi is inexplicably moving at his slowest movement speed for some reason, and the camera is fixated on him. But I don't know. I guess it would just be more fun if they had put a little bit more detail and like emphasis on the super suction and not introduce it in like what was it, floor 13? I don't know, it was the Pirate Bay level. That's the one where they introduce it. But I guess while we're going over the types of floors, I have to say that there is a lot of diversity between the floors. Like, each floor, I didn't know what to expect. Like, legitimately, I thought that it was going to try pulling off, like, more creepy stuff as you got towards the higher levels of the mansion. But no, believe it or not, it actually maintained an ability to keep me surprised about what I was gonna find next, including the one floor with the dabbing ghosts. No, I'm not making this up. There is a floor in which there are dabbing ghosts. It was probably the scariest part of any horror game I've ever seen. I won't lie, that shook me down to my core, and I legitimately wanted to turn off the game. I've never been more terrified in my entire life, and I watched the Emoji Movie. But yeah, other than that floor that shall not be named, I'd have to say that each floor presented like its own little area, sub area that really differentiated from each other. But I guess that really comes back to the fact that this game is more Dark Moon inspired because the first floor and second floor have a lot of interconnectivity with each other. My problem is that every other floor in the mansion is completely disconnected from each other. That the elevator could literally be the teleportation device that you use at like the start of every mansion. So like, imagine Luigi's Dark Moon, but like when you start the stage, you continuously go through the stage until you're done. Like with the boss and everything. That is basically this game. So I'm a little bit sad about the lack of interconnectivity, which is why I said that it felt like they were only really meeting the fans halfway. Um, but I still had a blast playing through some of these. Like I said, I am not mad with Luigi's Dark Moon at all, but I'm still a little bit sad that we didn't get the same sort of interconnectiveness that we got from the first game. Although the first game had a significantly smaller map, they at least had that excuse. Speaking of which, each of the floors are going to have their own like puzzles and stuff, and some of these puzzles are actually really fun. Mostly because they all relate back to both what the boss does, because a lot of the times the boss of the area will have a lot of like connectionness with the level. Like you can tell that this wasn't just a boss that was copy and pasted into the area where it really didn't belong. Possessor ghost. But I definitely say like as an example, if you want an example of a good puzzle, at the beginning of the disco area, there's like this tile pattern, like on the floor, and if you solve the puzzle that's related to that tile pattern, you can get like a bunch of stuff for it. And I found that really creative because it's something that only really could have been done in this area. And then, like, this one was shown off at the E3 trailer, so I'm allowed to spoil it, or like the Treehouse Live event. You have like a bunch of puzzles in like the Paranormal Studios that are like so fun that involve using Luigi to like get to the different versions of the mansion. And I found that to be really seriously the entirety of Paranormal Suites. Paranormal Suites is probably one of my favorite areas. I have to say that it's tied for being my favorite. I might say that it's my favorite, but I don't as of now I can't really think of anything else that would be my favorite. Oh, I guess chapter 11, I guess floor 11 was also really good. Twisted Suites was also really good. So I'd probably say that's tied with Twisted Suites. But yeah, I think it's a great thing that there are a lot of puzzles. But what I really have a problem with are the different endings of the game in relation to the puzzles. Because, like, obviously when you get puzzles, you get money for it, and then that money is going to go towards getting the different endings of the game. By the way, they added different endings. Yay, they brought those back. Except there's a problem, because they also added in a shop where you can spend your money. Why would you do this? Why would you give me a place where I can permanently spend my money and, like, buy stuff that I can't refund? Which, again, wouldn't be a problem, except there's not really a way to grind up money, unless you're talking about Scarescraper, which I can get... A Scarescraper is a whole nother topic. But the fact is that, like, I had searched thoroughly throughout the mansion, and I had bought, like, some stuff, including, I usually only had one bone on me at all times, like the golden bones at all times, and then, like, I had bought a couple of power-ups, and I believe by the end of the game, I had about $50,000 or something along those lines. It was about 50,000, and that was enough to get me the B rank. Okay, so I just went and looked it up. It was probably less. I don't know. If C rank is supposed to be the lowest, then I got a B rank. I do remember getting a B rank. I will show a screenshot of my B rank just in case anyone doesn't believe me. But man, like, I thought that I had been pretty thorough, but apparently I wasn't. And I know that there is an A rank that exists, and and as of now, there's no confirmed way to know if there's a S rank. But man, it just sucks that there's no way to, like, there's not really a way to grind up. You have to essentially reset the entire game if you want to be able to get enough money to, get the best ending. So yeah, I hope they do add in a way to, like, grind up more money, or hopefully the Scarescraper gives more money or something like that. I guess I can also talk about the items that they sell. EGAD sells 3 items. You get a bone, which is basically just an extra life. Polterpup will come and revive you. Boo Finder, which we can talk more about booze in a second. Well, actually, we can talk more about booze in a second. And then you have the gems. I have a problem with these. Number one, it's the fact that it does affect how easily you can get the endings if you buy too many of them. And then number 2 is the fact that they amount to nothing. I managed to get all the boos without looking up any guides and without using a boo finder. My reward was getting a flashlight. I got the boo flashlight, and because I had already I had already found all the boos, it's not like it could really be used for anything except Scarescraper. So that was a bit of a disappointment. I had really hoped that they would add up to something, because in every game, boos usually added up to something. Like, all the boos in Luigi's Mansion 1, you got like a tenth of what it would take to get the S rank. All boos in Luigi's Mansion 2 unlock bonus levels and stuff like that. But like in this game, you just get like a different flashlight, and that's kind of disappointing. I haven't gotten all the gems as of now, but I went and looked it up, and apparently it's just a different color of for a suction cup, which again I find disappointing. Although I did notice that they added an entirely separate category for special editions, so who knows, maybe they'll add more. That would be cool. But I guess when it comes to boos, the thing about boos in this game is that they are incredibly annoying. If you want to find a boo, the only way to detect whether or not a boo is in the room is by the shaking of Luigi, essentially. Like, you have to look closely at the poltergeist. Yeah, or like whatever the name of the vacuum is. I forgot. This is really bad. You have to look at the poltergeist G00, and you have to essentially determine whether or not, like, you're close to the boo. It has 3 forms of shaking. Tiny shake, shaking with bubbles, and then violent shaking where the bubbles are permanently on. The problem is that this is not enough information, and you could send out Luigi to, like, try to figure it out, but again, it won't work. And here's the real kicker. It can go anywhere on the floor, and if you pick the wrong object, it will leave the room and spawn in bats. Which is incredibly annoying, and honestly, it's just not worth anything. Why? Why would you do this? Why do they even bother spawning in bats? But man, I gotta say, when you do find a boo, it is the most satisfying thing in the world. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm going to leave this part blank. I've been trying to keep spoilers up to a minimum. But man, it is amazing. And then, next up, I want to go and touch on the enemy design. Enemy design for Luigi's Mansion. This is why the enemies were the main reason why I said that this was a sequel to Dark Moon and not the original Luigi's Mansion. The enemies are all exact clones of the original. Like, I gotta call them out on this one. They are all exact clones. There is nothing new about them. Okay, anyone who's played Dark Moon, catch me if you've heard this one before. So you have your basic ghost that's sort of shaped like a just sort of like your basic like pillow sheets ghost with like holes cut out of its eyes and then the 2 arms and then no legs, okay? And then you have big, strong, red ghost that's really, really powerful and tends to do a lot of damage, okay? And not only that, but he also has double the health of the regular ghost. So I wonder if you've heard that one before. And then you also have the long, lanky ghost that prefers to hide inside of objects and throws pieces of garbage at you. No, wait, it gets better. It wasn't purple. A pink, transparent ghost that can only be seen using mirrors and the dark light device. Because it's not like that's ripping them off at all. I'm not even joking. This is literally just a ripoff of every basic enemy in Dark Moon. I mean, you didn't even bring back the fat one! Why did you not bring back the fat one? He's the only one I wanted to see return! If you had to rip off every single enemy, why didn't you bring back the fat one? I loved him. I'm not even joking when I said that I spent the entirety of the game calling them greenies. Like the basic ghost enemy, their official name is Goop, but I called them greenies. Why did I call them greenies? Because they were basically greenies. Do you know why I called the purple ghost sneakers and not whatever they were actually called? Because they were sneakers. Oh yeah, they also don't attack you. They literally don't even attack you. They just try to scare you and occasionally try to push you. They don't even attack you. So yeah, just more ripping off of Dark Moon. I'm sorry if this review is coming off as overly negative. I really did like this game. I'm just saying that I felt like there could have been more original enemies. Speaking of original enemies, there was only one new type of basic enemy ghost that I only encountered 4 times. Total. No, 3 times, I think. And it turns invisible, it just stands in front of doorways. If you get caught by it, you have to spawn in Luigi and essentially just take out its tongues, and it dies in one hit, so it's not even that big of a deal. It is creative, though. I'll give them that one. And finally, I want to touch upon the bosses. If there's one complaint that a lot of people have been sending Luigi's Mansion over the years, it's that it lost its creativity with the bosses. I can only half agree on that. I honestly felt like some of the bosses in Luigi's Mansion in like the original game just didn't have as much flavor as people were claiming them to have. Because a lot of the time, like I'm not like Luigi's Dark Moon was definitely worse in this department. Because like again, you just battled the five exact same possessor ghosts, so I can't exactly say that that's like bad or anything. But like, and I guess using this as an example, you have a lot of the ghosts tended to only really have like one animation, and like they had their like basic sitting position, and like and then they had their like surprise trying to like run away from Luigi during his sucking animation. They had two basic poses. They had their like not noticing Luigi pose, and then they had their getting sucked up pose. And then like you would have some ghosts that had variety. I remember. Oh, jeez, I don't remember anyone's name. What was his name? I remember that the fat guy had a lot. I keep describing them as the fat one. I'm sorry. The fat guy definitely had a lot of different attack patterns, and I liked his boss fight, even though it was just optional. Man, I think one of the things that a lot of people associated them with Charm was because they had a lot more dialogue and they were a lot more varied. So like you had the father who really liked studying books, and he was just sort of sitting there, and I think he was an intimidating first ghost to see because like you're not really sure of what ghosts are capable of, and you just see this guy just sitting in his chair reading. And I think that's sort of where the term comes from. And then you have a lot of other ghosts, because I noticed that a lot of ghosts in the original Luigi's Mansion have like talking lines, and this sort of brings me back to the point to where like there's like a lot less talking lines in Luigi's Mansion 3. Like there is a lot more talking lines from the ghosts in that game. In fact, that's probably why Melody was one of my favorite ghosts of all time. Because not only was she bringing back a lot of classic charm, but also because I just really liked her like personality of just being really passionate about music. Which, by the way, hey Nintendo, Floor 4! Why was Melody not the boss of Floor 4? Okay, that's enough whining. Um, but yeah, I noticed that a lot of people would tend to just say that Luigi's Mansion is lacking charm, but then never really explain what charm is. I would say charm would be variety and style. Cause with a lot of the ghosts in the previous game, they had like this colorful skin tone, but then like human-like appearance. Whereas the ghosts in Luigi's Mansion 3 only really had one color, and then that was it. But I have to say, man, the boss ghosts in this game are awesome. Like, a lot of them are a tad underwhelming and forgettable, but man, some of these boss ghosts are awesome. And when I say that they're awesome, I mean that they're very expressive. Whereas the Luigi's Mansion ghost in the boss ghost in the original Luigi's Mansion had like had two things: intimidation and like personality. In this game, they have intimidation and personality, but they do it almost entirely without talking lines. And while I do like this, like the fact that they managed to get across what these ghosts want, and like you get sort of a general idea of what these ghosts think and act like, specifically from their own like demeanor and from the new facial expressions that they have, because they really worked on the facial animation for this one. Man, you look at these ghosts and you see that and you can tell what kind of ghost they're gonna be simply off of their facial expression alone. Although I do have a complaint, and that's that I wish that the ghosts had speaking dialogue. And that's not some of them. I wish that most of the ghosts had speaking dialogue, because a majority of the ghosts are human-like and definitely could have gone for a speaking line. Here's why. The reason is because of Morty. Morty is the perfect ghost. I'm not going to lie here. Morty is absolutely my favorite ghost. And yes, I am allowed to spoil everything about him because it was shown off at the Treehouse Live event. The reason that I like Morty so much is that not only is he really passionate about what he does, but we also get the idea that he tends to over dramatize. Like, the dude literally gives up on life because he lost his megaphone. Or death, in this case. And then, like, when you get it back, he's just the happiest person in the world. And then he's also the only optional boss ghost, and also the only boss ghost with dialogue. I mean, aside from Helen Gravely, of course. But we also get the sense from him that he doesn't really care about what Helen Gravely is planning. I mean, he obviously went along with it since he has one of the elevator buttons, but the fact that he just sort of gives it to Luigi for helping him out shows that shows that he's not really harmful or violent towards Luigi or bear a grudge against Luigi. And I think it would have been more interesting because some of the other ghosts don't really look like they would align themselves with Helen Gravely. Some examples from this are the triplets in the Twisted Manor room, and then I would probably say the guy that lives down in the boiler room. I would say that he also doesn't really make sense since according to his character he is lazy and generally doesn't take his job too seriously. But like that also confuses me as to why any of the ghosts are working for Helen Gravely. I feel like if we had gotten one or two speaking lines from them, we could have gotten better into their heads and stuff like that. And just gotten a better idea of like why they're staying at this hotel. Because this is a hotel intended for ghosts, so obviously it would make sense why some of them would want to stay here, but still. And like, I do like some of the bosses, but some of them are just some of them can be a bit lacking at times. For instance, you have like I believe it's the second boss. It's the maid boss because it acts more like a game of cat and mouse and teaching you how to use your dark light device while moving more than anything else. Another boss that was kind of underwhelming was the boss that came right before Helen Gravely. Not her cat, it was the boss before that. It was the boss of floor 14. That boss was underwhelming, not only because it was over so quickly, considering it was the 14th floor, like you probably could have moved that one down a few floors, but also because I didn't know how I won. I was pressing every button on the controller until I basically won, and I still didn't know how I won. But more or less, I think that all of the bosses were amazing. I think there's one exception to that, though. One boss that was kind of a letdown. It is Spectral Catch. I'm gonna go and spoil it right now. It's the pirate shark. A ghost pirate shark. Now, listen, when the words ghost pirate shark come into your mind, what do you imagine a boss fight with that would be? Like, just when you hear the words ghost pirate shark. When you hear ghost pirate shark, were you expecting a possessor boss battle? No, you were probably expecting that he would try to eat you or something like that. Nope! It's a possessor boss battle, and that really disappointed me. You know, the possessors from Dark Moon that everyone complained about because they were the same 3-cycle thing over and over again. Yeah, that was kind of a disappointment, I'll be honest. Other than that, I have to say that all of the bosses were really well set up. And, I guess now we can go and start talking about the finale stuff. So, when you get onto Helen Gravely's floor, this is when you realize that this woman is, not right in the head. She is addicted to King Boo to an unhealthy obsession level. Again, I already talked about her boss fight, I really liked it. Either way, you beat Helen Gravely, you rescue Mario. Honestly, I feel like Mario's, like, the guy who voice acts Mario and Luigi, I think he's doing a different voice for Mario this time, and I don't know, it's just kind of weird considering that I've just come off of playing both Super Mario Maker and Mario Odyssey. I don't know, it just sounds a bit off for some reason. But anyway, I love the battle with King Boo. I have been dying for a battle with King Boo. And can I just say, Nintendo manages to surprise me every time with how they can top off these King Boo battles. Again, I want to keep spoilers to a minimum here, but like, okay, I want you to think about this. So you're at the top of the tower, and you know that in the first game, King Boo was piloting a giant robotic Bowser. In the second game, you were running through hallways in an alternate dimension created by King Boo in order to specifically turn Luigi into a painting. I want you to think of the way that King Boo could top it. And that is how he topped it, because it is amazing. But anyway, just go and wrap up this review real quick. I love this game. I think it has some problems, and I definitely think that it needs to improve in some aspects for a bit. I did have this one glitch that happened to me, like, literally 40 minutes ago, where I was going into EGAD's, like, where I was teleporting to EGAD, and for whatever reason it, like, disabled my controls once I got in there. Like, there was nothing wrong with my controller, it was just that, like, I couldn't do anything. I think the game had soft locked or something, but but once I reset it, it went back to normal, so it's fine. Other than that, I'd probably, if you're into the Luigi's Mansion games, get this game. Like, this is a must-have if you do like Luigi's Mansion. I have to admit, I feel like this is a bit more like a Dark Moon. I feel like this is more of a sequel to Dark Moon than to, Luigi's Mansion. But you know what? That doesn't mean that it's bad. That just means that it's trying to be different, and I can at least respect that. If there is one thing that I will say that this game absolutely ruined, though, like, I can't ignore this. I absolutely can't ignore this. As a Luigi's Mansion fan, I cannot ignore what they did. They ruined Scarescraper. I'm not even gonna bother talking about the other modes, because honestly, the other modes from, like, Scare Park just aren't worth talking about. But they ruined Scarescraper for me. So, like, let's go over how they ruined Scarescraper. So when you select a Scarescraper, you get you get 3 options: 5 floors, 10 floors, and random. I don't know what that means. You're also not allowed to choose which modes you want. And, I guess that's fine because I was going to go with random modes anyway. The problem is that I'm pretty sure you are more likely to get Ghost Hunt, because I have done at least 10 floors of Scarescraper, and I have gotten Ghost Hunt 9 times in a row. And, like, I get it, I'm playing by myself. I haven't played with anyone. I plan on calling up someone and getting some footage, hopefully. But man, I'm just so mad that they ruined Scarescraper for me. Because the problem is that they made it insanely difficult to the point that it's not even really fun anymore. Like, at least with the original Scarescraper, you were, like, building up funds. You gotta keep a balance between building up funds and, like, completing the objective. And that way, it felt like you were getting progressively stronger as you went through it. This version, you already have everything to unlock, so there's no need to improve. The ghosts, basically, there is barely enough time to do anything. In fact, I know that there's barely enough time to do anything, because they literally give you timepieces in the basic mode. You are guaranteed to get timepieces. And that, like, I don't know, it just ruined it for me. Because, like, it's just an insane amount of stress to be starting out with something that's supposed to be the first floor is nearly impossible. But, like, they also took away the red coin minigame, which is a shame. I loved that game. I want those bonuses, man. But yeah, other than that, other than them basically ruining Scarescraper, I'd have to say that this was a pretty good game. Like, I will compliment them on this, though. The game is really hard, and that's probably just because every ghost in the game is capable of dealing a third of your health. But you know what? It's still very hard. Like, even regardless of that, I actually died. Like, legitimately, that normally never happens to me in a Nintendo game, and I actually died. I can't even believe it. And before you ask, it was on the final boss. And yes, I usually try to keep buying bones to a minimum, because normally I don't end up in, life or death situations. But no, I was in a life or death situation, more or less, every boss fight. So yeah, overall, I'd say it's a pretty good game. If you like Luigi's Mansion, I would definitely get this game. If you're still kind of iffy on the whole series, but you're interested on checking this game out, I would probably wait until the holiday season and, like, try to get the game on discount. But other than that, yeah, I'd say that it was definitely a fun experience. I usually try to keep by the standard that you should get, like, an hour of playtime, for every dollar that you spent, and, like, I ended up 100%ing the game in, like, 20 hours, so, interpret that how you will. I'm not gonna bother giving this review a number, or, like, trying to give Luigi's Mansion, like, a number, because by this point, if you wanna, I want people to interpret this on their own. I'm not gonna limit myself down to a meaningless number that's gonna get contradicted later. I have standards, even though I'm covering something relevant, even though I didn't want to. But yeah, this is basically the end of the video. This video was more so meant as a holdover thing, rather than anything else, because I mostly just needed to tell you guys that I was working on stuff rather than, like, actually finishing the Let's Play that I should have been done with a while ago. Yeah, definitely expect more stuff from this channel. I'm going to try to upload more regularly, but again, school. I can't really prep for any of that stuff. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Bye!